Have you ever wanted an Electron-based terminal emulator that runs on all major OSs, Windows, Mac, Linux, that was designed specifically for large touchscreens and was inspired by science fiction movies? No, me neither, but today we're going to take a look at one. We're going to take a look at eDEX-UI. Let's get started. eDEX-UI, a full-screen terminal inspired by Hollywood. Let's take a look at their Github page. So, their Github page, the blurb at the top, a science fiction terminal emulator designed for touchscreens that runs on all major OSs. eDEX-UI, available for Windows, Mac, Linux 32-bit, Linux 64-bit. And then you have various screenshots of, it is a full screen application. It is designed to be run on large touchscreen monitors, touchscreen devices. So the terminal emulator eDEX always opens full screen. So I don't have a touchscreen device to demonstrate the touch capabilities of this particular application, but the mouse functions very similar. So you always get this kind of Hollywood-like terminal emulator. You have a terminal usually in the center, although you can adjust the layout a little bit. You have folders in the bottom right. They're clickable, or on a touch screen you can touch them with your finger to navigate through the directory structure here. You also have a keyboard that functions both on the touch screen and with the mouse, or those of you on a proper computer with a keyboard, you just type and the terminal emulator works as expected. The shell is Bash by default on Unix systems. It is PowerShell on Windows, of course, on Windows. But you can run other shells. So on my machine here running Manjaro, it starts in Bash, but I can switch over to both ZSH and Conch, X-O-N-S-H, just fine. I'm sure Fish would probably work as well. eDEX-UI is really more style than function. This is not something anybody would use on a regular basis as their terminal emulator. This is mainly just to... It's really more of a gag or a joke to fool your friends, thinking that you're some kind of elite super hacker, that you're, one of these movie supervillains. There are some really neat layouts to eDEX. Looking at the Q&A, what can this thing run on? We've already discussed that. It can run on any Linux distro that can run Chromium. So if you have Chromium installed, Chromium's available as an app image. You should be good. Of course, it runs on Windows and Mac as well. Is this a real terminal? Yes, it functions as a real terminal emulator. Everything that you can do in, Xterm or RxVT, etc., you can do on eDEX. Where is the keyboard? Of course, there's a touchscreen keyboard, but again, if you've got a keyboard plugged in, it works as your standard terminal emulator. So let me open this thing. So I'm going to switch over to a different monitor here, and I'm going to launch eDEX-UI. Ooh, if I can type it correctly. Again, it's an Electron app, so it's going to take a few seconds to launch. Electron apps are notoriously slow. It always opens full screen, too. Again, it's designed for large touchscreen devices. So no options to resize it or anything. It's always full screen on whatever monitor you opened it on. By default, the shell is Bash. You could switch over to ZSH. I've tried that. XONSH, Conch. That particular shell works. To Fish, I don't have Fish installed on the system. I'm sure the Fish shell would work just fine in the terminal as well. Alright, so it's very heavily inspired by sci-fi, of course. You have all this basically superfluous junk surrounding the terminal, right? On the left-hand column, you have time and date, uptime, type of OS you're running, which is Linux in my case, CPU usage, and you got some neat little line graphs here. You got temp, you got some memory usage stuff with this neat little grid here. That's actually, pretty sharp looking. Top processes, so this is your process viewer. Think of it as, your top 5 processes ranked by their CPU usage. Actually, the Conch shell is using the most CPU. I guess I have it still running from playing around in it earlier. I was actually testing it out in eDEX. OBS is taking up a lot of CPU because, of course, I'm recording using OBS. eDEX itself is also using quite a bit of CPU. At the bottom, you have a directory structure of file manager, and it is designed to be touchscreen. You just touch the directory or the document, and it should open for you. But of course, the mouse works too. You just touch on it, and we are in, well, we have the path here, home/dt/.config. So we're in my .config directory. So you just navigate around. Now, they're not organized alphabetically either. So this is kind of confusing how it is organized. I don't know if it's organized by size, date created, or what's going on here. Here is the eDEX-UI config directory, so I can, get into it. There is a themes directory. This is where all the themes for eDEX are located. So if I click on one of the themes, watch what happens. Instead of opening that document in like a text editor like Vim or Nano or something like that, it just automatically changes the theme, right? So that was the Apollo theme. Pretty neat. Blade. This is blade.json. So this is the Blade theme for eDEX. Not bad if you like this kind of orangish color. Chalkboard. Now chalkboard here is pretty classy. I wouldn't mind running this theme here. We have Interstellar, which is a light theme. It's kind of bright. I'm not a fan of that one. We have red. What the red theme looks like. Red. It's got like some blue dots for the background. It's not too bad. It's a little too red for me. We have Tron disrupted, Tron type left. Let's try Tron type left. And you will see, well, if it launches correctly, it finally does. Again, it's an Electron app. But you see the keyboard is now on the left, the file system is now on the right. I think that was what they were trying to go with this theme. But I no longer have my directory structure. I might have to relaunch to get the folders back, but that was the Tron type left screen. So let me close eDEX and relaunch it. And of course, wait a second for it to relaunch. By the way, eDEX, you can install it from the GitHub page. It has install instructions for all major OSs, for Unix systems. Use npm. I will tell you, on Arch-based Linux distros, eDEX-UI is in the Arch user repository. And for those of you wondering, does the terminal emulator itself actually work? Yes, a simple, ls command works. And cd back to the home directory, htop. Here's htop running in eDEX-UI. It's actually, again, it kind of fits the hacker theme, having htop running and something like that. Even better would be, does cmatrix work inside eDEX? Wow, it does. Again, is there any point to using something like eDEX-UI? No, this is not your next terminal emulator. Nobody that spends a lot of time in the terminal would run something like eDEX-UI as their official terminal emulator. This is just for fun. This program was created, again, just for fun. It has no real purpose out there. Well, I say it has no real purpose. The touchscreen functionality of it is kind of neat. Who really needs a terminal emulator on a touch screen and, wants to actually touch an on-screen keyboard? Nobody really. The fact that it was written in Electron also is going to put off a lot of people. But, for something that's just kind of fun to play around with, it's easy to build. You can get it on all major OSs, Windows, Mac, Linux. Might be something kind of fun for you guys to try out. Anyway, before I go, this show was made possible by Ansem, Carlos, Chris, Dylan, Leo, Rob, Tony. They are my highest tiered patrons over on Patreon. They are the producers of this show. Also brought to you by all those ladies and gentlemen, all those names on the screen. They are the supporters of this channel. If you would like to support my work over on Patreon, look for me, DistroTube, over on Patreon. Peace, guys. Happy New Year.